Long enough to cover the subject and short enough to keep it interesting. Welcome to Outta My League. I'm Nick Diaz. I have a degree in mass communication, so I feel like I can speak to what I'm about to say. The media has a morality complex. Now, there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, because they do this simply because they were taught this in school, just as much as I was. You know, Woodward and Bernstein cracking the Watergate scandal, the Pentagon Papers. You know, every aspiring journalist looks up to them. The integrity to do the job, because guess what? Good journalism is important to a society. All of that is good. You need to have high moral standards and integrity if you want to have good journalism. But here's the downside to all of that. Just like anything, too much of one thing is bad. And the downside to all this moralism and integrity is that it leads to groupthink. When you have everybody thinking the exact same thing and pressuring each other, holding each other accountable for one idealistic view of the world, you end up with a culture of moralists. Now, stick with me here. The result of all of this, the culture of moralism in the media, is that nobody bothers to stop and say, am I really offended by this? Like, does this really offend me? Brian Kelly and Lincoln Riley both did the exact same thing. They took higher paying jobs to have a better recruiting base. End of discussion. They took higher paying jobs to have a better recruiting base. Now, to be fair, the only difference is that Notre Dame has an outside shot of potentially to get into the playoffs, and Oklahoma's season was pretty much done. So I get that there's a difference in that respect. But the media is now saying, well, it's hypocritical that he leaves his team when he talks about, players sticking together, yet he leaves before the season is really decided. What about the players? Well, the players can leave too in the transfer portal if they want to, just like Brian Kelly. Well, Brian Kelly is a horrible person for taking money to leave his players. Every coach eventually leaves their players for a higher paying job. That's how the industry works. That doesn't mean that they don't love their players, but at the same time, they love their wife and children a lot more. The early signing period, a concerned moralist ideal that people had about the players not getting the early signing period out of the way so they don't have to worry about their feelings and being all stressed out. Guess what? That is now hurting the players inadvertently because everybody has to leave early before the season even is finished. Stuart Mandel of The Athletic, he was on the Audible podcast with Bruce Feldman, and he said this about Brian Kelly, and I'm not shitting you. I quote, "The way Brian Kelly was so happy to be at LSU at his press conference after leaving his players at Notre Dame, he said, quote, I'm starting to think, is Brian Kelly a psychopath? Are you fucking kidding me? Why? Why is he a psychopath? Because he's happy to make $100 million to live in a warmer climate with better food? Fuck me, I know, right? What a horrible person. I'd be more concerned about Brian Kelly's mental health if he didn't take $100 million. The cultural fit thing is just getting on my nerves now. Brian Kelly is not going to Saudi Arabia. They speak English in Baton Rouge, and they speak English in South Bend, Indiana. They have the same currency in Baton Rouge and South Bend, Indiana. They have democracy in Baton Rouge and South Bend, Indiana. They put gas in their car in Baton Rouge and in South Bend, Indiana. Why is Lincoln Riley not a cultural fit in Los Angeles? Lincoln Riley is from Muleshoe, Texas. Muleshoe, Texas. Find that place on a map where the town's hall people couldn't figure out a name for the town, so they decided to look underneath their livestock and said, there's a shoe under my mule. How the fuck is that a cultural fit for Los Angeles, California? You're not supposed to leave Notre Dame. How dare he leave Touchdown Jesus? Ugh. Why? Why are you not supposed to leave Notre Dame? Why the fuck are you not supposed to leave Notre Dame? Somebody explain that to me. I keep on hearing that. How dare you leave Notre Dame? Are you not supposed to leave Oklahoma for USC? You mean more money for better weather and better food? And then they want to sit there and make fun of Brian Kelly apparently trying to do a Southern accent at the LSU basketball game. I was there. I didn't hear a Southern accent. But the northern media members and the people on the West Coast just listen to that, and they're going to say, I didn't study linguistics at all. But I'm going to say that he's trying to do a southern accent, and I'm just going to ignore all the people from Baton Rouge that are trying to tell me that's not a southern accent. I could take the low-hanging fruit here, but I won't. Fuck it, I'll do it. So Bob Bowlesby, the commissioner of the Big 12, he had this to say about the big moves about Lincoln Riley, who left his conference, the Big 12 at Oklahoma, to USC, and Brian Kelly going to LSU. These were his exact words on an interview on a Sirius XM radio. Quote, "Those were certainly surprises," Bowlesby said. Coach Riley had been mentioned in conjunction with the LSU position, and I really thought that there wasn't much credence to that because I know what a fine guy Lincoln Riley is. He's an outstanding coach, obviously, but he's a high-quality person, and he's mature beyond his years. And so, it was a little bit surprising that he did jump ship for USC, but I wasn't surprised that he wasn't interested in the LSU position, because culturally, that's just not what Lincoln Riley is. And frankly, I was surprised by the Brian Kelly move to LSU. You know how I always talked about the moralism in the media? Well, here's the thing. They only do that when it's really convenient for them, because these low-class, dumbass Cajuns aren't allowed to have nice things. USC gets an upgrade in coach. Congratulations. Fight on, baby. LSU gets an upgrade. The only reason why Brian Kelly would leave Notre Dame for LSU? Well, it must be because he's secretly a terrible person. You know what the real problem all these people are having? They would have no problem if USC stole the Notre Dame coach. People have been talking about that for years, actually. But they can't stand the fact that a Baton Rouge native went up to South Bend, Indiana, and stole the Notre Dame coach in the dead of night, because those people down there are beneath us. You have soiled the sanctity of college football, LSU. Scott Woodward just took a giant shit on it, for all I care. And if you're a Notre Dame fan listening to this right now, the day you turn down $100 million for you and your family, let me know. There's your moralism for you. Thanks for listening to Out of My League. If you like what you heard, be sure to like, share, and subscribe, or follow me on Twitter and Facebook in the description link below.